Bangladesh is set to hold its general elections on 7th January 2024, which is in just 2 months from now. And the political atmosphere, the political climate in Bangladesh is not so healthy. There are many protests going on around the country, as well as violence that has taken place as a result of these protests. What exactly is happening in Bangladesh? Let us understand the political climate of Bangladesh. The current Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina has been in power since 2009. Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina has been in power for a total of 20 years. She served an earlier term in 1996 to 2001, making her the longest serving female head of state of any country in the world. Why is the country's atmosphere, the political atmosphere specifically, in turmoil at this point? Let us understand and unpack what is going on. The Bangladeshi Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina has been accused of several charges. So first, she's been accused of rigging the elections. She's been accused of tampering with the last two elections that took place in 2014 and 2018. She's been accused of not only tampering with the elections or rigging the elections, but Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina and her party, the Awami League, have been accused of extrajudicial killings as well as disappearance of political opponents. In addition, mass arrests as well as police raids of opposition party members' homes have also been attributed to the will of the ruling party to suppress its opposition. Now, the opposition party, Bangladesh National Party, has time and again protested against the current regime and wants the Prime Minister and her party to step down and a caretaker government to be formed in the meanwhile. But the Prime Minister, Sheikh Hasina, has firmly refused to step down. Not only is the Prime Minister accused of rigging the elections and suppressing the political opponents, but she's also been accused, she and a party specifically, have also been accused of suppressing the voice of independent journalists. Last month, in October 2023, the opposition party, which is the BNP as I mentioned above, organized a protest demanding for the current regime and the Prime Minister to step down. However, in this protest, a prominent leader of the opposition party, Mirza Fakhrul Islam Alamgir, was arrested along with over 900 people, over 900 protesters across the country. Now, in this particular protest, over 100,000 people or protesters participated, and just a week later, about 8,000 opposition figures were arrested. So, this is what has happened in just the course of 1 month. Now that we have understood the political climate, the current political climate of Bangladesh and what the Prime Minister and the Awami League have been accused of, let us also understand and learn more about what the country as a whole has achieved in the last 20 years. So, Bangladesh has had a consistent growth rate of about 6% and above since 2011. For 12 years, this country has grown at a consistent rate of 6% per annum. Not only that, but Bangladesh is one of the only few countries that has achieved a positive growth rate of about 3.4% during the pandemic. Despite the pandemic that took place and shook the world in 2020, during that time, many of the prominent and prosperous countries of the world experienced a negative growth rate. On the other hand, Bangladesh had a positive growth rate, and that too of 3.4%. Bangladesh was one of the poorest countries in the world at the time of its independence in 1971, and in 2015 it was granted the status of a lower middle income country and is now on its way to become an upper middle income country by 2031. Here's the interesting part. Bangladesh has a GDP per capita of about $2,800, which is higher than that of India. Keeping in mind that India is world's 5th largest economy, so it is incredible the pace at which Bangladesh is growing, and India certainly has a lot to learn from Bangladesh in terms of economic growth. Economically, there's no doubt that the country is doing much better than what it was 20 years ago, and certainly the current Prime Minister and her party, the Awami League, deserve credit for this economic growth. So now, on one hand, you have the opposition parties as well as international parties and actors that want the Prime Minister and her party to resign and give up their seat, as they have multiple accusations against them. And on the other hand, you have this incredible economic growth that Bangladesh has experienced in the last 20 years. So this raises a few questions. Number one, why exactly is the United States concerned with what is going on in Bangladesh, and why does the US want a regime change in Bangladesh? From the point of view of the United States is per se not against Sheikh Hasina and the current government. It just wants free and fair elections to be held so that a truly democratic government can be formed in Bangladesh. Also, this isn't the first time that the United States has raised concerns about the elections and the political climate taking place in Bangladesh. In 2014 as well, India as well as United States, they had talks, they had discussions over what was happening back then in 2014 in Bangladesh. But at that point of time, India was able to convince the United States to not intervene in the Bangladeshi election procedure. However, this time, the United States of America has taken a firm stance and wants Sheikh Hasina and Awami League out of the office. And this is clear from the visa sanctions that the US imposed on the members of the Rapid Action Battalion, an elite force in Bangladesh. Now, these members of the Rapid Action Battalion have been accused of their involvement in the disappearance of about 600 people since 2009 and in the extrajudicial killings of about 600 people since 2018. Not only that, but the US has also updated its visa policy for Bangladesh. As per this policy, anyone who is involved in obstructing the election process in Bangladesh will be denied visas and entry in the US. So, as I mentioned earlier, the US has taken a clear stance this time against Sheikh Hasina, and Sheikh Hasina has also called out the US, stating that the US wants to topple her government, while the US claims that it is concerned about the political climate in Bangladesh, specifically about the state of democracy and freedom of press in the country, and that it will be harder for the US to cooperate with a country where democracy is eroding. This is not entirely true. In fact, the United States is also Bangladesh's largest trading partner, specifically when it comes to exports. So the exporting value of Bangladesh to the US is about $11 billion. Majority of the garment industry is dependent specifically on exports to the US. Coming back to the point, this isn't the very first time that the United States has interfered in any other country's election process. In fact, between 1946 to 2000, it has been estimated that the US has intervened in a country's general elections about 80 times, be it the CIA's involvement in the 1948 Italian elections or funding of elections in Panama in 1980s, and then again in Albania and then Serbia in the 2000s. Not only has the US funded other countries' elections, but it has also successfully backed coups to facilitate regime change in countries. And a significant example of the same is when the US was successfully able to facilitate a coup against the Iranian Prime Minister Mossadegh in 1953. And just a year later, it was again able to orchestrate another coup in Guatemala when it was successfully able to overthrow the then president Jacobo Arbenz. Now, there are countless examples of the involvement of the United States government in another country's elections. But let us understand as to why the US has done it in the past. There are two major reasons as to why the United States has interfered in the past in a country's general elections. One of the major reasons is that the United States is a free market economy. It's a capitalist country. Wherever it sees communism is rising in any country, it takes a firm stance against that. Wherever it sees an extremely left-wing government coming up, it automatically wants to place a government that is not extremely left-wing. On the other hand, it also takes a stance against a particular government that has an anti-West or an anti-United States stance. And whenever the United States feels that its authority has been challenged or its status as a superpower is being challenged, it will take a firm stance against that country. The possible reasons for the United States intervention in Bangladesh could be due to the growing partnership and relationship between India and Bangladesh. You may be wondering why the United States is concerned about the growing partnership and relationship between India and Bangladesh when India and United States are having good political relationships at this point. Well, the truth is that even though India and the US are having good terms right now, and in fact they're closer than ever before, but the US does not want to take any chances as it did with China earlier. And as India is now climbing up the ladder of becoming one of the few largest economies in the world, it does not want India to come even close to the US and challenge their superpower status. It does not want India to become the next China. It does not want to make the same mistake as it did earlier with China. Even though United States knows fully well that India is an ally and its only ally in the Southeast Asian region against China, India is the only country that can help the US when it comes to facing China. Another fact is that the opposition in Bangladesh is anti-India and pro-Pakistan. If the US is successfully able to intervene, and not only that, but if the opposition comes in power power in Bangladesh, then India and Bangladesh's relationship would be hampered. Now that we know that the United States wants the Awami League out of the office, what role does India play in order to maintain its cordial relations with Bangladesh and at the same time understanding that the US wants the current regime in Bangladesh to be out of office? How can India navigate this whole situation? At this point of time, India and Bangladesh share cordial and close relationship. Both the countries have been supportive of each other's actions. India has been supportive of the current Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, and this is also the reason as to why India was able to convince the US to stay out of the previous elections that took place in Bangladesh. The Awami League-led government is pro-India, and both the countries are working on multiple projects at this point of time. India and Bangladesh have launched rail projects, bus services. India and Bangladesh are development partners, and in fact, India is the largest development partner of Bangladesh. The two countries are working towards improving their connectivity, not only between the two countries, but also the northeast region of India. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has even said that the countries had finalized the land boundary agreement to ensure peace and stability in the region. On the other hand, as mentioned earlier, the Bangladesh National Party, or the BNP, is anti-India party, and anti-India sentiments in the party and in the country started gaining momentum after the assassination of the then president of Bangladesh, Mujibur Rahman, in 1975. In fact, the military and friendship treaty that was signed between Indira Gandhi, the then Prime Minister of India, and Mujibur Rahman, the then President of Bangladesh, was labeled as a slavery treaty by the BNP. In the recent 5th annual India-US 2+2 ministerial dialogue that was held in New Delhi earlier this month, Indian Foreign Secretary Vinay Kwatra disclosed that the Bangladeshi election issue had been discussed between United States and India in a press conference, and he further stated that the election in Bangladesh is their internal matter and it is for the people of Bangladesh to decide their future. He further said that as a close friend and partner of Bangladesh, India respects the domestic process there and will continue to support the country's vision of a stable, peaceful and progressive nation. In this regard, China too shares a similar perspective. China has also said that the election is an internal issue of Bangladesh and that Bangladeshi people have every right to decide the course and future of their country. Now, this is what India has explicitly said about the situation, which is different from its stance in 2014, back when India was successfully able to convince the US to not intervene in the elections. And this could also be due to the fact that at this point, the US has taken a firm stance and India may just not want to, bring a dent in the cordial relationship between India and the US. Despite the current situation, the political climate in Bangladesh, one thing is very clear, that the elections that are taking place in Bangladesh, they are their internal matter. Their people get to decide who they want to choose and who they want to vote for and bring in power. Having discussed everything that is currently taking place and the international actors that are involved, the regional actors that are involved in this whole situation at this point, what do you think is going to happen in the Bangladeshi elections that are going to take place in 2 months from now? Let me know in the comments below. If you found this video valuable, please share it with your friends and family. And also, please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you for watching this video and have a great day.